Both Empire and Force and now VP came from Challenger League, and that's how we saw them dominate in the way that they do in EU League in the past, and some even to this day. Our map ban again. Let's put it up on the screen and see which map we're going to be playing on. Let's go. Graphics are in.
No Oregon, please.
Oh, okay. Thank goodness.
Thank God. I already like Challenger League more than EUL.
More. Exactly. More variety in CL than in the actual league. How cool is that? Clubhouse is the one that we have. Hap, 2 words about it. Let's be honest. Fedora banning Oregon is probably the best thing we've seen all week.
Yeah, I'm rooting for them now. Let's just put it like that. No, I wasn't ready to go for another Oregon just yet. I'm sure we're going to get it tonight. But Clubhouse, it's going to be a true test for, well, both these teams really, because Winstrike also had some of their members poached, Milan being a good example of that. So both teams not really at their full strength compared to when they qualified, and thus having to reprove themselves.
That's a big thing as well. You got to think about Clubhouse. It's probably an even playing field for both teams. Everyone knows how to play Clubhouse. Everyone should have default strats, pocket strats, counter strats, left, right, and center. So it's a map that really can test both of these teams, I think. And probably the biggest thing that we've noticed, especially with Russian teams like Winstrike, there's certain operators they really like to get rid of, and they're really good at playing around not having those operators. And if they do leave them in there, I think they often get crippled. So I think we'll see the ban phase go a very particular way if they do sit to that particular standard.
Anything specific beyond the usual meta that we see from Russian teams?
Capitao. I think if they leave a Capitao in, or they leave a Wamai in, and so on and so forth, things will be shaken up just a little bit. I mean, Milan used to be on the team. He's now, as we know, gone to Tier 1. That's a particular ban we see that teams that he's on now. So I think that'll be a recurring theme. If it's not, maybe we'll see a really new, fresh version of how a Russian team could be.
It's time. We're close. We're almost ready to toss it into game. Clubhouse expectations after watching Team Fedora, even though it's not the full lineup of division that we saw in the GSA German Nationals or the DACH region Nationals. What are your expectations from them coming into this against Winstrike?
It is hard to say because there was high expectations of the lineup, and then we're struck with some disaster of player poaching and all that kind of everything that you could imagine basically struck them there. It's hard to say what they can do. We're really just going to have to wait and see how to do it on the actual map before we can draw any expectations for the rest of the season.
Well, from your side then, as Jess was talking about, like Capitao, I mentioned the meta, any sort of operators that you might be expecting to be banned out or have an effect on the game?
I think we're going to get, it's Clubhouse, it's Heartbreach House, right? There's going to be a lot of them now, and I'm going to really wonder, surely we're going to get a Heartbreach ban. We're not going to go with End Thatcher and all Heartbreachers. I'm pretty sure something of that caliber will be removed.
Well, we saw the Ace ban as well that came out. So now, of course, for people that may not have watched the EU League or any really league in the past 2 weeks, to bring you up to speed, Ace and Malusi are now in competitive play. So we saw them played and banned. Both have had a pretty interesting effect on this, on the metagame in general. Jess, do you see, again, as Hap was saying, Heartbreach House, Ace out of the window?
I really think that these teams could, experiment with getting rid of him. But at the moment, there's not a lot these teams know about each other. We really have to stress that point. This is Challenger League. It's not Tier 1. We don't have a whole host of VODs to be going through. Even if I try to do an analysis on these teams now, there's only very few little bits that I can pull out of it. I might even have it to be go down to Moss files and, flick through the photos to even get a little bit of information. That's how little these teams have on each other. So if you take a risk of banning Ace, not knowing whether the team actually uses it, you keep Maverick in, and they sail that wall open into a soft wall in mere seconds, you've probably made a big mistake there.
You have to keep in mind also that a lot of these teams and players themselves have only played in their own region. So even if you have VODs on them, it might not really give you the biggest of image on how they work. Because if we look back at Brazil back in the day, Brazil played completely differently when they're playing against one another in their region versus others at events. So all of these things have to be kept in mind, and your information, the mileage you get out of it can vary wildly from game to game. See, there's a lot of fans in there. By the way, for those that don't know, we're going through our first matchup of the day. We have 6 in total to go through. Fedora versus Winstrike. Again, our mixed German team versus the Russians. We were just talking about it, and you mentioned it, Jess. Winstrike had Milan on the roster only, a month or so ago. So, yeah, a lot of talent comes from Challenger League, and
it has to these days. I mean, this is, I think the biggest thing about Challenger League really to set into everyone's minds, especially people who's not very familiar with Tier 2 especially. I think the biggest thing is that a lot of players, and you think about Pengu, you think about Bowler, you think about all these really big names that you know from around the world, they all came from somewhere, and this is what Challenger League is about. So we're fostering all of this great talent. Go to the future, give it another 2-3 years. Some of these names you see here today, not so big names now. Give us 3 years and they're going to be banging names all over the scene. So I think that's the best thing about Challenger League, because we get to cast them right here, right now, and one day they're going to be big names, which is just really cool.
And it's not just that, because you're starting out on the national level first, right? And you're going to have some of these teams like the Lone Lions. They have a history of picking up players who actually performed well in the Benelux scene to put them up into the actual Challenger League. Like an example for that was actually Deepak, who is now basically the main fragger. He was absolutely slapping every single player in Benelux, got picked up, and he managed to perform. Jingstyle is another example from that. Also played for Flashpoint, got picked up. They played CL with him, and they continue like that. So, and it also goes like that in other regions. So it starts out at the regional level, and then they get noticed by CL, then they get noticed by EUL, and that is how you make it.
Yep.
And if not, if you're in Hap's case or in Jets,
you become
as
a
washed-up coach, Hap as a washed-up player, you become a commentator, analyst on camera.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Promise. Really, that's all it takes. Thank you so much, though, Hap and Jess. Let's toss it over to our casters for our first game of the evening, Fedora versus Winstrike. Milady.
Thank you very much, James. We get the honor of opening up this season of Challenger League. Obviously, it's very exciting because we're here on the main channel. Every single game is going to be played on this channel. We get to see talent from all over Europe as they've come up through their respective national programs, starting right here with Fedora versus Winstrike. Are you stoked?
I'm absolutely stoked, really keen to get stuck into it, Gio. As you're saying, this is the debut for Challenger League, having its entirety broadcast here on the main channel. This is a Tier 2 league. This is the pathway to pro for these teams. Now, of course, they're already very well established. They're playing in their own national leagues. Fedora actually played in Challenger League last season, but just failed to make it on through. In fact, the little choke on the final day against the now Team Secret roster let the Germans make it through into EUL instead of Fedora. Now is their chance to make good on that.
Definitely the opportunity. And you mentioned it's the Tier 2 league, but so many of the best teams that we currently know in Tier 1 were those Tier 2 teams back then. Most obvious example right now, BDS. Also, they mentioned teams like Force and like Team Empire. And obviously, everything's going to start off here with the ban phase. Thatcher and Monty going to be straight out of the game.
Yeah, this is actually quite a surprise to me to not see Maverick banned out. So many have funs flooding down the chat. Love to see it. But just touching on those 2 attacking operator bans, every single match that I had recorded from the Russian Major League and the GSA for Fedora, Russian Major League for Winstrike, did not have Maverick in it. So I'm wondering what's the go here with Maverick being slipped through, and I guess it means that there's not as many VODs for these teams to understand how the enemy team's going to use it, specifically with that Maverick in. So we're probably going to see him basically insta-picked almost every round. But aside from that, it's a very much standard ban phase. On the defensive side, no Mira, no Echo, so you'll see a lot of your Maestro, likely your Wamai to come out, probably to hold Garage, especially on that top floor. The Monty is a little bit of a flag to me. Looking at previous results, I hadn't seen very many Monty bans at all in the past from either of these teams. So I personally am intrigued. I don't know what the go is here.
Certainly interesting. And as you mentioned, it means you do leave Maverick open to be played, and he's going to be picked straight away there by Larry on Winstrike. So obviously something a little bit different compared to what a lot of their past play has shown. And part of me wonders if maybe they've gone for these more, I suppose, less creative bans that you often see come out a bit more on Clubhouse these days, because they kind of want to go back to the fundamentals, go back to the very basics as they figure one another out.
Yeah, very much could be the case here. So, as we kick things off at CCTV Cache, the first bomb site, as we mentioned, the Maverick does make an appearance, but in fact that is the only hard breacher aside from... I didn't see Hibana there. Hibana's in as well, so if it's downstairs, you've got lots of options here. But Wardenal comes in the form of Kaid, so we're likely to see that Maverick do the good old Maverick trick. Line at the top, line at the bottom of the wall. Soft breach, maybe Sledge or Zafir or Ash to destroy the soft part of the wall. And... yeah, that's definitely going to be necessary. I expect we'll see these Cade Claws come through and might save one for the bottom garage indeed, actually. So this does prevent the Hibana from opening up the bottom garage. I wouldn't be surprised to actually see Fedora completely negate Waldenal on that main CCTV wall and instead prioritize keeping those garage walls soft, because it's basically inevitable with Maverick in play to get that wall open. You may as well focus on garage, and we can see one of those electric claws has been deployed on the bottom garage walls, but I believe there's one still in the pocket because I can't see where the second one has been placed.
I think it's there on the, there you go, on the construction wall. So I guess he hasn't still got it in pocket. So obviously no opportunity for tricking, but when you're playing a Maverick, it's not going to matter so much there on the server wall.
Interesting, we don't often see this. The Maverick's actually opening the side of the wall. Typically what you would see is a line at the top, a line at the bottom, and then that unreinforces the wall. Instead, the Maverick's actually going to make a perfect rectangle. And that means there's no soft breach required. But indeed, the first pick comes from the attacking side. Capcan punished on an aggressive run out, I do believe, and that does leave all of the magnets that would have been generated still out of play.
Big disappointment there for Fedora, but they do, of course, still have the ADS available to them, as Noah is online, or I suppose he will have put them down anyway. So some of the projectiles will still be able to be caught, and there's quite a few that are being held on the side of Winstrike. Now, you mentioned the issues that could be had entering into the garage, but it looks like they've managed to get the wall open with about half the round remaining.
Drone work from Winstrike. The Russians looking to close in. Next objective is to take control of that garage. Main breach is open. You can pinch from that kennel's balcony and from garage to try and take out this Rafters player. It is the Maestro. Being a 3 armor is going to soak up a lot of damage. The older means they don't have to reload, but the nade comes through. A little bit of damage, but still that's not a lot. The flashbang comes out, and now the Maestro is exposed. But Winstrike have to capitalize. They know that the players are watching to support, and Fratelli gets a pick. Looking outside, eventually traded out, but the kills are raining back and forth. Noora is looking to get aggressive in garage, eventually punish both of these teams desperately fighting over control of garage, but eventually the Russians do claim it for themselves.
Constant trades have now left it in a situation of a 3 versus 2, but Exo's going to be lacking on a lot of the health. It's Larry who's going to be championing the diffuser, so they've just got to guide him into the site here, and that's why you see the smoke coming out from the smoke to try and deter their push in, but that's not going to stop him. He goes in for the plant, but watch the attempt at the denial, and wow, that's going to work. A great C4 straight onto the default spot, but Flares is going to follow up with the kill onto Hayes. That gives Exo the opportunity to maybe start again. Very little time remaining. The shield is hiding this player here. Flares gets that last kill, and Winstrike secure themselves the first round in Challenger League.
A very nice start here for the Russians. They have taken control and dealt very handily with that defensive setup from Fedora. We noticed that wall denial was not really a problem whatsoever for the Russians. They chewed through that main wall without too much of a struggle, thanks to the Maverick. It did something very similar in Garage as well. And admittedly, Fratelli, the Italian player on the side of Fedora, was able to find one pick in Garage, but eventually traded out. And once we saw that massacre happen in Garage, where Fedora kept on fighting back, they always wanted to get some kind of refrag. They were actually at a numbers deficit. It was a 3 versus 2 for the attackers. Now, I would have thought perhaps that C4 coming through the floor from below to deny that plant might have made it possible, but after that player was traded out, it was all on the smoke on the bomb site, and I don't think Nemeo was ready to hold on. But nonetheless, Fedora will reattempt that bomb site, and hopefully can find a bit more success.
I mean, it wasn't a total disaster, and obviously the attempt at denying the plant did work. It just so happened the Winstrike were ready to pounce straight back. And there we go. We're going to get a nice replay on that beautiful C4 that just landed so perfectly onto the enemy. But as you say, they're going to try their attempt at bouncing back. It looks like it's going to be a similar setup to last time.
Can I just take a moment to appreciate our wonderful observer, Medics? He is unrivaled when it comes to showing, in particular, complicated angles and utility. And that C4, honestly, Medics, you're a bit of a gunner. You're nuts. So thank you for carrying us through this broadcast every single day. I really appreciate you.
Medics has the highest rating, CGG rating, of any of the people who work on EUL. It's a fun fact.
There you go.
And
so
Easy.
the only real Easy, of course. Easy's not on tonight, but no doubt we'll get to enjoy some of Easy's observing before long as well. Ooh, there's a good bit of info there. Nora is spotted out, roaming downstairs. Once again, it looks like Fedora looking to hold on to Garage and support from Lounge. Oh, almost the pick there for Fratelli, but he loses his Evil Eye. Good util usage from Winstrike early in the round. The only operator change that we've seen on either side is this Malusi in place of that Kaid. I think that's the right pick. We could see the Kaid was pretty much a null factor in the last round with how good Winstrike were at dealing with those breach walls, but in the late round, that Malusi may make this much more difficult for Winstrike.
Well, the first kill is going to be going to Fedora, which is the opposite way round to what happened last time. So straight away, it's going to make them feel much better going forth into the rest of this round. They still do have that roam engaged right now, as Noah still remaining off site, and I believe Capcam was as well. There you go, you just see him at the top of New Blue there, ready and waiting for this attack to come in through the garage.
Winstrike still have a lot of utility to clear out that bulletproof gadgets on the defense, like the Evil Eyes, and ooh, what a nice nade there. That's so impactful. Capcan taken out, and another one, good for two. That is absolutely nuts. Winstrike seem to have this in the bag, and they're going nigh flawless. Despite losing that opening pick, Hayes tries to bring it back once again. And a 2 versus 3, this is looking very similar to what happened last round, Gio.
I said at the start that Fedora would be feeling a bit more confident after getting the opening pick, but Winstrike just turned around and took it all into their own hands. Another case of the 3 versus 2s with just Hayes and Nemea remaining. Nemea's holding desperately onto the site because they know to expect the diffuser to come in. Sounds like a nade isn't too far away from him, but he knows this player is on the rafters. Rush has to back up, no longer going to be caught out in that line of sight as the smoke is there to hold him back. Less than 30 seconds remaining. Winstrike starting to sneak on into the site. There's the attempt at the plant. The C4 does work for a second time. A 2K there for Hayes, and Fedora sweeping it all into their own basket at the end of the round, and they even things up after round 2.
Really, really nice plant denial at the end, and that's the second time in a row Hayes was able to deny the plant with the C4. Funnily enough, Gio, a very similar position we saw taken about that minute mark on the round where Winstrike had a 3 versus 2 advantage after taking garage control. Now, things pan out slightly differently this time. Of course, with the defense finding that opening pick onto Smash, you would have thought they would have that advantage, but Winstrike fought back really nice. In particular, the sledge, I think it's Flurzo. I'm going to take a stab and say that's how to pronounce it. I apologize to all the Russian fans if I'm getting that one wrong. 2 nades. Like, so rarely do you see a player land both of their nades for kills in a round. So that was really impactful, especially when the Jaeger and Wamai were both brought on the defensive side. So great stuff there from Flurzo. And yeah, 3v2 after garage control. So once again, a really nice clutch. I really want to emphasize how impressive that was. Hayes stepped up massively. As I think Hayes is going to be a player to look out for. I think that's something I've learned from the last 2 rounds.
We're 2 rounds in, and already I'm starting to think I'm just going to watch and see if he plays an operator that doesn't come equipped with a C4. Because obviously he's on Valkyrie this time round, another C4 operator. Maybe he's just going to roll through every single one and see how many C4 kills he can rack up over the course of this first half. I don't know, but you're absolutely right. Definitely someone to look out for, as he's really impressed in those first 2 rounds.
Ooh, but there's a nice drone spot from Exo. Hayes was spotted. Does get off that drone though. I believe Larry was on the drones though. Often what you'll see on the attacking side, this is something we don't really get to check out a lot. as spectators, but very typically one attacker at least will be sitting on drones for the start of the round, often flicking pre-placed cameras and live droning in teammates, and the great way to get map control, and that's exactly what Winstrike have done so early. Not 30 seconds gone, and a Claymore on the garage ladder will prevent those rotates up. I do wonder what kind of a clear we're seeing here from Winstrike, though, because while they have taken control of areas like garage and storage, I'm not sure whether they actually droned out the whole map. Perhaps they just had pre-placed drones watching staircases. I think we just saw a Winstrike player actually going onto the top floor. Of course, we can see that all of Fedora are downstairs on the basement, but Winstrike don't have the fortune of being able to tell that quite so easily as us.
Yeah, I think especially after the popularization of... ready with the C4 once again, it's Nemea this time, but wow, this team loved them! Especially after the popularization of the SSG roam, you can never quite trust if the defending team of this bomb site are going to be somewhere else on the map. But as you say, we know that to be not the case, as Winstrike start to shoot in down over to the, well, the top of the main stairs, opening up that floor.
C4 goes out. The player just barely survives it. And Flares is going to be counting his lucky scars. 75 HP loss. It's quite significant. Going to give him a significant disadvantage in the next gunfight. But he is still alive, and that's what really matters here.
Well, now we'll just see them opening up these relevant hatches. Moto has been opened, as you just see Rush peeking down. They can throw in the flashes, but Winstrike don't have a lot of time to begin to move on down. The nades being thrown, we did see 2 catch enemies last time, but that won't be the case on this round, it would appear. That's going to be the first injury, as Flurzo nearly loses his life. He's still going to be crawling around, waiting to be picked up, but this is a risky position to be in. He does get res, though, so that means all 5 players are still in the game for this final engagement.
I really like these X-Kairos onto the church wall, but time is slipping away Winstrike. They're going for a dangerous late push here. They're going to need to deal with this shotgun player. What a shot there from Rush. Good for 2, 15 seconds left, but Winstrike might be able to pull something out of nothing here. Hayes, of course, the player you can never count out, steps up, but that plant's going down. And Fedora need to step up on the retake.
Well, it has been done, and now it's Hayes remaining, having to deal with it. The C4's being expended, but he's going to get shot at from above as Flurzo still remains on that upstairs floor. Time is ticking down, but he doesn't have any time to do anything. With an SMG-11 to the face, Flurzo gets that final kill. And that's it for Fedora for round 3.
Crazy the way that Winstrike was able to pull a victory out of that situation. They had players who had taken damage really early. You'd think a lot of time would have been wasted as Flares had to be revived in kitchen. You could see that Fedora was so vigilant, impact tricking that kitchen hatch. There was no way that the Russians were able to open that up. They ended up really relying on Exo with the X-Kairos to put one X-Kairos at a low angle so that they could go prone at the bottom of main stairs and look deep into church, and then 2 closer to the Moto so that a player could actually enter and get that plant down. And I thought with about, 15 seconds left, it would be really difficult for Winstrike to actually make an entrance through that, but I need to credit Rush. Not only was that first flick insane onto the player in blue, but managing to hold out that refrag and continue pushing in. There were 3 picks for Winstrike before Fedora was able to fight back, and here we'll see it on the replay. Such a crisp shot here.
Oh, he was just so ready. Beautiful, beautiful to see that, especially from players who you know are trying to make their mark on the world of competitive Siege at a tier that some of them have never been at before. Now, I'm a bit heartbroken because Hayes has decided to forego the C4 operators. So the pattern has been broken, but the pattern that hasn't been broken is Fedora returning back to the bomb site that they did lose for another attempt at defending it successfully.
the Docs are a really odd pick here, especially now, for those who don't know, Docs lost the ACOG. Of course, with Shadow Legacy, we've had a bit of a revamp to the way that optics work. We've got so many new magnifications available instead of just that 3 times ACOG of the past. And the Doc now been demoted to just a 1.5 times as the maximum magnification. So that means these days when you're picking a Doc, you're really picking him for the stim pistol, for that utility. And I'm a bit surprised. I would have thought that especially when, as you mentioned, that a C4 has been forgone for a bulletproof camera here, I would have thought that maybe could get some wall denial done. We actually have no wall denial on the defensive lineup, no Qayyid or... So I'm hoping that maybe we'll see Fedora maybe get some aggressive picks here or keep their players on site alive.
Yeah, that's what we'll definitely be looking for, especially as Winstrike have done such a good job of playing aggressively themselves. We saw what Rush was able to achieve for the team in that last round, not to mention Flares, after he got rezzed, could really get that final kill at the end that secured themselves the round. So Fedora need to be standing up to that.
Bulletproof spotted with ping 2.0. Droning out the site from Winstrike. I'm curious to see how the attackers will decide to execute. I wonder whether it'll be a very similar kind of church wall-centric push as we saw last time, but for now, opening up the walls of Kitchen, Fratelli desperately trying to hold his ground under Arsenal so that he can continue impact tricking the hatch, but he's feeling the pressure at the moment. Hayes stimming himself up as well, but Winstrike, it's just a matter of time before they start pushing.
That's it. They have to be very aware of this Maestro, who is down below, now has to retreat so that he can reload. You'll know how long that takes with the Alder, so it's the perfect opportunity for the X-Kairos to be put down and to get the kill onto Fratelli. No longer is that threat there. That cleans things up very nicely for Winstrike.
What I want to know is, how is the breach looking on that church wall? That's what really matters here. If we have a look at the Winstrike drone economy, Exo's run out of drones completely, and here's the drop in through Kitchen. Larry on the bomb site, but it's getting so messy. He's done so much for his team with a nade and a shot, and now there's just one player left. What has gone on here, Gio? What did I just witness? From absolutely nothing to absolutely everything. A flawless round for Winstrike.
Nemea unable to hold things off at the end there, and kind of unsurprising as it was a very overwhelming push. You mentioned Larry getting the nade as well as a kill, as well as planting the diffuser. Man does absolutely everything, apparently. Very overwhelming, I think is the best word to use.
Yeah, not gonna lie here, Gio. We're experiencing some technical issues. We are currently trying to cast on a few frames every second. But sometimes one frame every few seconds. It's
it depends how lucky we get.
Yeah, I apologize if we miss some crucial details, guys, but I can tell you what, my brain is actually like, the cogs are turning in overdrive. The less information we get, the more I'm trying to use my game sense to figure out what's going on and like see the utility through walls on that one frame we're getting. So it's a lot of fun, Gio. It's a very, very challenging but exciting experience.
Hey, it's Challenge League. It's meant to be challenging.
Aha! Well, I was going to make a segue and say that it's certainly been challenging for Fedora. I think it's great to go back to what Hap was talking about in the pre-show, which is that these guys, formerly Division, or Division, however you want to pronounce it, they did struggle in the GSA. They weren't one of the more prominent teams. They had some decent results against even some of the pro teams, but I feel like this is such a drastically different roster now with those changes, and I think they're still struggling to find their feet. Winstrike, on the other hand, they've really started this match and moreover this league on their own terms, and it's really exciting.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And you also have to bear in mind that Winstrike themselves did experience roster changes because, of course, Milan went on over to Virtus Pro. We've seen him play in EUL.
What a player.
And Rush was actually the player that they brought in. Now, Rush has been showing up so far. You would not have guessed that he was a new player and had to mesh with the team. Ex-teammate of Flares, who's obviously on the team anyway. So they were already familiar with one another, but you can't discount the fact that it's still a roster change nonetheless.
That smoke comes out a bit late there. The idea of putting a smoke onto the wall that Maverick's getting is you force the Maverick off the wall, but you have to place that smoke babe actually on the ground for the hemisphere of influence of the smoke to actually project through that reinforced wall. And I don't think it's super effective, but hey, Capcan immediately traded though by EXO. And Winstrike have this crucial wall.
It's really important, of course, to be able to get those trades, and that's something that Winstrike have been doing very, very well. Rush the amount of damage in that engagement, but he's still going to be standing as they prepare to land the Excaliburs here onto the bathroom wall.
Yeah, I like this. It's not something we see every day. A lot of times teams will really try and take cash control, but Winstrike are really putting a lot of stake into this jacuzzi balcony and opening up those angles into the bathroom. Hayes was not nearby to attempt to bandit trick that, probably for the best, as those nades coming out over the top would have made him have a bit of a rough day, and now he's pumped with his Zafia lifeline, and Winstrike still with that numbers equality. They have good ground, but what can they do with it?
We've seen them in situations like this before, and that's exactly what they can do with it. A perfect shot from EXO as he opens things up. That's going to be a nice C4 once again from Hayes, the master of such things. We're in a 2 versus 2 situation now. Can Rush get the kills he requires to help bring his team to a 4-1 situation? Still standing is everyone, and they're going to have to move forward soon. The Toxic Babe canister did get thrown out, but it wasn't near any of the players it required to deter. Drones being sent in, hopefully going to help everyone as Smash holds onto the angle in through the master window. Noah's just ready and waiting, and fewer than 20 seconds still sit on the clock. Something is going to have to be done. Looking for the kill. He doesn't actually quite manage to get it. Noah takes a bit of damage, and now broadcasted have the positions of Winstrike been, and that means the Smash will be the first to go down. Nemea, he's the next one, but Fedora win out in the end as time runs out. A very quiet end there. Or, I suppose, a very quiet lead up to a very explosive end to that round, and Fedora get closer to evening things out.
I feel like Winstrike started with a bang after they took that control. I really like that aggressive entry from the Hibana player of EXO. Really just getting in there. I mean, they had the jacuzzi wall open, and they'd opened up the bathroom wall with not only a line of sight on the left-hand side, but also an entry on the right-hand side. From that point, he's like, look, guys, let's just, send it. Rolled Rush for no reason, all right? Playing Ash, I feel like it's the most appropriate name he's chosen. But it's not only the Ash player on the action. EXO made that entry, really showing up well for his team, but of course, Fedora was there to receive, and by the end of that bloodbath, it was a 2v2, and that explosive start we saw from Winstrike really began to, it fizzled out. It started off with a bang, and it closed out with I guess, a sigh, and Fedora held on quite nicely. That said, they're still on the back foot here. Winstrike have won 3 of their attacks thus far, and I will say, Clubhouse, I mean, as every map in the meta right now is defensive-sided, with perhaps the exception of Coastline, you would hope that Fedora could at least find this round here and even things up.
I think that they'll be bitterly disappointed if that isn't the case, given, as you say, this is very famously a defender-sided map. And if you do end up 2-4 at the half after you've run the defense, you're significantly going to find yourself on the back foot, unless you just turn out to have a wildly insane attack, which is something the Winstrike so far have shown us to do.
Looking at the operator lineup on the defensive side, we have seen some change. No operators we've never seen on this bomb site, but they've foregone the Maestro Fratelli, previously playing that at the top of Rafters in Garage, and he's flexed onto the Kaid. I think that's the right choice. In particular, playing at top of Garage, he can actually Kaid trick, if you will, those Garage walls. Oh, he's not playing Garage. Never mind, he switched positions with Capcan. I guess the idea here is that Capcan's got the extra magnets that can generate overtime, so he can protect himself even more. But it looks like Winstrike may have changed things. They're going for more so a master bedroom across push instead of putting too much stake in Garage. And I do like this, and I think this can work, but there's a lot of utility they're going to have to contend with on the bomb site.
Well, there's still time for them to be able to do as such. There goes the first Ashe breaching round, still with one in pocket. And Rush isn't going to make any attempt to panic. Yep, removing the shield from below with the Sophia lifeline. It's a nice start as these players start to come in from construction.
Medics with the godlike observing once again. I simp for medics, I certainly do. Here's a shot from Flares, but the nade, it may well land. Last time he attacked this bomb site, he found 2 kills with the nade. That's his 3rd on the match. Namia, sit down. A second nade comes out. Hail Mary, surely. Winstrike have a good advantage here. The second nade goes out, but the magnet catches it. And that means that the explosion does not remove that electric claw on the construction wall. Still, Winstrike struggling to open this up. I think maybe they've got it, and wins. What is that? Hayes has gone down. Surely Winstrike can close this out. 5 versus 3, and they've breached open the construction wall as well. Everything's looking good for the Russians, but that's a nice shot from Nora. Traded out. Kapkan and Fratelli better step up big here.
And Nora was still down below, and now he's on the floor as he's going to have to be rezzed if he is to remain in the game. Fratelli's decided that it is worth it, but Rush could get this kill here while it's happening. He brings Nora down, and there's the second one onto Fratelli. Winstrike take another round, and Fedora struggling at the half as they enter into their attacking side.
We've talked quite a bit about Fedora, but I am loving watching Winstrike. They are such a confident team on their attack. And, well, the nades from Flares have just been goated, not gonna lie. And if we look back into history books for this team, Winstrike, yeah, they've been struggling thus far. They're actually sitting at 5th place currently in the Russian Major League, which is the primary competition they play in order to get to this to Challenger League. It's how they qualified, because last season they came 3rd behind Virtus Pro and Team Empire, who are obviously in the EUL, so they are ineligible for Challenger League. Winstrike, though, struggled so far in the Russian Major League. But I'm hoping that we can see them revitalized here in Challenger League, because let's be honest here, now that these guys are qualified for CL, that is their priority. CL is everything for Winstrike. That's what gets them that ticket all the way into EUL to join their countrymen on Empire and Virtus Pro. And hey, if they keep it up here, if they can crush Fedora on their defense, I think Winstrike may very well be a contender.
I mean, look, we've seen explosive rises through the ranks from both Empire and Virtus Pro, formerly Fours, who really both sprung out of nowhere and straight away onto a major international stage. They, you know, it's time for a new team to be the one who comes out of the CIS region and does something very similar. And as it stands, it's looking like Winstrike at least feel confident enough in themselves to know that they belong there. They know that that's their place that they want to be in. And right now it's in Fedora's hands to push them down and tell them, no, you stay in your place because that's for us. And so far it's not been as fortuitous as they would have hoped.
I'll give you something more than that, Gio. Winstrike used to play under the organization Force. There you go. Already
Crazy.
We're having multiple teams under that organization from the CIS region performing,
It's a curse.
punching above their weight.
It could be a curse
hey,
or a
it's
blessing.
a good omen,
I
eh?
suppose. Definitely a good omen. Fedora are going to be hoping for good omens coming into this half. And Nora is... he's going to be just burning out some of that utility, the ADSs present there in cash. You've got to be aware of the Malusi Wub as well, right by the door, that'll slow down anyone who decides that they want to push in. And of course, Larry is right there ready and waiting should anything like that happen.
This is actually so early for Fedora to have this control in construction, but the question is, are they neglecting this flank? Because EXO could be the deciding factor at the end of this round. I believe someone just went back and was watching the position, watching the flank, but if not, that could be everything. Nora was very much aware, and that is the first pick here for Fedora. It looks like Winstrike for the first time this game really are looking pressured.
Nora, a very venerated player in Tier 2 in Europe. He's played in a number of regions, obviously representing GSA here, but has also been in the French League as well, as he is, of course, a French player. Definitely one to be looking out for, but it's going to be Flares throwing in the impact, trying to stop the ex-Kairos for Kapkan. He gets a kill onto Rush. That's a pretty big pick.
Yeah, and the impact trick actually missed finally there is a pick from Flares. Player stepped up on attack and now in a bit of a pickle on Cash. Really vulnerable to those grenades that he was so good with on the attacking side. Capcan finds Larry. Just 2 players left for the Russians on the defense, and really it seems like only a matter of time before Fedora wins this round. We need to see a play come out, and it's all on Flares. Stepped up massive on the attack, but Fedora have just done the same. That is their first round in a while back in the game.
That's exactly the confidence boost that they'll need as well. You know that momentum breaks are huge, and they did take round 5, so it hasn't been too long since they did see their name pop up at the end of the round announcing that victory, but after having a disappointing scoreline at the end of that first half, you want to be getting the gears into motion and knowing that you can bring it back moving forward, and it looks like they're ready to be doing that. So now they're going to be heading down into the basement, ready to, or Winstrike this is, ready to defend the next site. They don't want to be hanging around in CCTV, which is what Fedora did. They went back to the same site after they failed to defend it the first time. But Winstrike, they just want to move on.
Yeah, I think that's the right decision. Unless if Winstrike makes sweeping changes to their defense of Cash CCTV, I don't think they would find immediate success there. In particular, just with how good Fedora were on taking the master bedroom into Con. It was actually only 1 minute off the clock before we saw the Ashe player of Nora already in Con and pressuring in, and that meant, well, there's plenty of time to waste through any ADSs or magnets, clear out the deployable shields in sight. And very obviously, that flank attempt from Winstrike was unsuccessful. We didn't see where the drone was from Fedora, but clearly with the way that they turned around and watched that flank, there was at least one drone calling out EXO's position. So I think with just the absolute slapping that Winstrike got just then, yeah, move on.
This is very aggressive positioning here from Smash, who's got the C4 in hand, just ready to snatch anybody should they move in from the garage, but other than a drone just sat in the door and actually just having caught him out. Oh, but that's an early catch out as well, as EXO sits at the top of New Blue, just ready to, I believe, jump out onto Nora. That's their entry gone, that aggressive player that we mentioned from Fedora taken straight off the board.
It's also revenge for last round, where that trade went the opposite direction. And, well, with 2 breaching rounds now gone, it'll be a little bit more difficult for Fedora to clear out the Malusi Banshees, Maestro's Evil Eyes. And I expect there's a shield brought on the smoke. Pretty common these days.
Yeah.
Indeed, there is. And that's probably downstairs in the hallways, the typical spot. Or maybe it's in blue. No, not in the hallway. It is. I can't tell, actually. It's not in blue. I don't know. What? That was actually an enemy player that dropped EXO. Did Namir mean to drop through the hatch? Was that an accident? I think, judging by the XD in chat, Gio, I think that Maverick was opening the hatch and accidentally fell down. So that's already put this game into disarray, but hey, Fedora at least got something out of it.
Yeah, and talking of opening the hatch, the kitchen hatch is going to be attempted, I think. Yeah, the impact trick looks like it was successful, so they've got to clear out whoever it is down below them. That's going to be the Maestro, which is being played by Rush, but he's ready behind the box just to try and shoot up onto anyone, whoever it might be. Another impact goes in, and another X-Car is gone. That's all of them. Sorry, Kitchen Hatch. Staying closed today.
Yeah. Also denies the push that we saw from Winstrike onto the church wall. What is that? Capcan with 2 picks. You really shouldn't be winning those, but eventually punished from Larry. 2v2. I feel like every round we're seeing, 30 to 50 seconds left in a 2 versus 2. And this very much could swing either way. Fratelli and Hayes step it up. Walking through that Banshee, choking on the gas. That's so much damage. Eats a bullet for his troubles as well. But Larry holds it out from AKs with 2 picks. And that is Winstrike to win their first defense.
I have to say, I really like that coordination at the end there. They had the Malusi Wub right by the door, slowed him down so he couldn't get out of the smoke. And by the time he could see onto the horizon, a player in Moto ready to end his life. Really great. It put Winstrike in a perfect position to be able to round the round out for themselves and take that victory.
Indeed, we are going to a rehost. It gives us a moment to breathe for these teams, and I feel like there's been a lot of exchanges really early in the round from both of these teams, and that's something I really like to see because it demonstrates that these teams, they're not afraid of each other. They are just going hell for leather, as you say. Right in. Early in the round, we saw Fedora take control of Cash when they were on the top floor, or rather, construction when attacking the Cash bomb site. And kind of a flip side of that, Winstrike was just so ready for the early engagements when they were defending the basement. We had that C4 prep from Oil Pit. I think it was a jump out from storage window, I think, that killed the Ash player on stock. Like crazy aggro from Winstrike, but calculated enough that it worked out. It's leaving us in so many situations where there's so much time on the clock with like 2 players left per team. And it's certainly exciting to watch.
But also at the same time, you mentioned so much time on the clock. Very uncharacteristically, back in round 5, the time ran out, which was it was the only round that really felt kind of wrong for these teams. And this is obviously, the first that we've at least seen them play against one another. And we can already build this idea of what we see their playstyles to be. And to see that happen and not have that really powerful, aggressive 2 versus 2 engagement at the end, and instead them take a lot of their time that ended up working against them, was very out of character.
What I will say is both of these teams look really good on the attack. And I think that is reflected by the fact that we've seen 5 out of 8 rounds so far swing that direction, which is not only, it's quite significant towards the attacking side. Typically, we would see like 50-60% defensive win rate here on Clubhouse, but these teams, they've got a lot of gusto in the early round, a lot of confidence. We've seen a lot of good pre-place drones, which I think is enabling early map control. But in particular, the way that Winstrike found those early picks in that round just gone, it makes me think that the defenders starting to realize that they can not only slow the attackers down, but also find a few picks if they're just a little bit more aggressive in the early rounds.
Yeah, it's funny here. If they're a bit more aggressive, that's certainly what they have been. And I have to say, I really have to commend, we spoke about him, but Rush, because on the attack, obviously being a really impressive entry, getting a lot of value out of his role, but even just on that last round there when he was playing Maestro, he managed to impact trick successfully twice that led to the point that Hibana was out of X-Kairos and they couldn't go for any kind of kitchen drop because the hatch couldn't be open. That meant they had to change their way in, come down the main stairs, which obviously was really difficult because of the Banshee that was present, because of where the smoke was situated to be able to use the Toxic Bay canisters, and the church control still being had by the defenders in a way that meant that shot could be taken onto that player. So, it's sort of like the butterflies and hurricanes effect. Rush gets 2 successful impact tricks, suddenly that leads to the winning of the round.
Yeah. I will say, though, after those impact tricks were successful, we saw Fedora, flip the switch. They're like, all right, guys, this ain't working. Captain's like, I'm just going to walk down blue stairs, see what we can find. He found 2 picks.
Yeah.
That is huge. Not only did he kill the player in blue, but immediately swung out and took the player out at green box near dummies. I believe that was actually Rush, or whoever was on the Maestro at the time.
That was Rush, yeah.
Yeah, so super fortunate that we saw Larry there to step up and not only trade that kill, but I really do want to put the end of that round onto Larry, and the way that Winstrike won that in that 2v2 was, 2v3, I guess you could say. Larry found that opening kill, retrading out the player that was pushing blue, and you mentioned the Wub Lucy's Banshee at the bottom of main stairs, caught out the attacker trying to file their way down there, a gas thrown over the top of the armory wall, not only made the player take damage, but also impaired their vision, which enabled flares to peek from Moto, and then it was a 1v1 that we saw Larry win out, which was nice to see the support players getting a bit of the spotlight. A shame that we're not going to see the stats in game now, as of course with that rehost we don't get to see the kills. It's reset to 0, but I think we can definitely see that a lot of these players are packing some firepower.
Absolutely, and of course, coming over now to Jim is Winstrike for their 3rd defense. This was the site that they struggled to attack successfully on. So I'm very intrigued to see how their defense is going to compare, and if we'll find a similar situation where it does get slightly less aggressive towards the end and things do slow down, because it really was quite strange to see.
Yeah, very much so. Now Winstrike, I love that. We're seeing the pre-placed drones already from Fedora. I believe that was Fratelli, just flicking them at the start. One in lounge, there you go. Nora as well, the drone out stock, pre-placing in lounge, I believe. Sussing out the situation at bottom red. Here's a great drone in garage as well on the pipe, I believe. There's like a little vents unit. And that sees the player all the way at top red. A claymore down to prevent that flank. And as is fairly typical here, thank you, medics, spotting out that drone, top garage, and all the vision that it gains. Ooh, that player just fell down the blue stairs, and EXO, you can clearly see that Fedora are aware of this.
They know by this point, and it's something that actually both of these two teams have exhibited, with EXO and Nora on the other side, having these really deep roams be done by their Jaeger player and making use of the basement, even when coming up onto the top floor. You can see him just peeking out here from storage. He knows that there's a player nearby.
Very aggressive position, but you can see Nora very much aware. Finishes them off, and oh, look at the drones. They've been so good for Fedora. So much information gathered by Nora's drone. But is the kill to come through? Fratelli taking a bit of damage elsewhere. Oh, the Larry impact. What is that? Nade comes through one direction, a C4 the other. Neither finds anything. But Larry's still so keen to peek this angle. Fedora stalling out a little bit here.
You can hear the magnet as well, catching some of those projectiles incoming from Fedora, but that nade, while it didn't manage to get a kill, it wasn't impeded in its efforts. Well, neither's Rush going to be, as he lands the kill onto Nora. That evens things out, but Smash is just going to add onto it as well. Larry taken off. We spoke about him quite a bit, and his value for this team. That's going to be a big loss here for Winstrike, as Hayes outside tries to get a player for himself.
One thing I do like about Winstrike here is that they realized that Fedora was really focusing on cash and they kept dedicating players to it, but funnily enough, it ends up being to their detriment. Smash caught off guard, and oh, that's a nice pre-fire through the wall. The Italian is here to stay. Fratelli found 2 on the round. Rush can refrag it, but Fratelli, bellissimo, finds out the last kill. And that's another round here for Fedora.
Man, I had no idea that you were fluent in Italian. That was really impressive.
Yes, I can say
You're so cultured.
In cafe. No, uno. Oh, that's French. Never mind. Yeah, I've lost all the Italian fans I had just gained. I'm sorry, I've just lost.
I'm not sure you gained any Italian fans. I wouldn't worry about it.
I have one Italian fan.
Really?
Yeah, one Italian fan. He is absolute legend. He actually gave me some biscotti when I was in Milan a year and a half ago. Good times. Ex-Turian, the absolute legend. Probably casting this game, actually, for the Italian stream right now.
Well, I'm glad
that, is
that
my
you
one
have
fan.
a
That's
fan.
it.
Yeah, you have one fan. But it sounds like you become quite a fan of Fratelli, at the very least.
I have. I mean, a 3K like that, who wouldn't be? That's nuts.
It's definitely fun to see, and it also means that Fedora are now no longer in that position where they need to be super worried, I think, about scoreline as they're, you know, edging closer and closer to meeting Winstrike in the middle and making it a 5-5, especially if they can take the attack on this site, as Winstrike return back to the first site that they visited on their defense.
And having a look over at that defensive lineup, very much looking the same. Everyone's playing the same operators as last time, haven't had any changes whatsoever. Flair's looking to hold stock, at least a little bit. Goose downstairs to try and prevent that vertical game. We've seen how important that verticality can be, and look at this, Winstrike, an aggressive shield and reinforcements on the logistics to construction wall. Recall last time around, Fedora had such early map presence of Master and Construction. Nora was actually inside Con with only 1 minute down. That includes how long it takes him to get to the building, so he basically went full send. It's going to be much more difficult to do that last time with those reinforcements on the Con wall and that deployable shield in Con.
Well, if you're going to go full send, you're going to need a Nora, so we'll be watching out closely for how he plays this Ashe, as while he has been doing pretty well, he's also found himself lost in a couple of the early engagements too. So there's always that risk. EXO down below, nice positioning. We've spoken about how he likes to play quite a deep roam, and the first set of X-Kairos will be expended. You
can see that Fedora very much deciding to combat this logistics and construction presence. Ooh, I think the first X-Kairos must have been destroyed because that was too long, and the second one to go through, Fratelli finds that. It's just some low holes though, so not full control. And Kapkan does start things off, so still it's looking good here for Fedora.
Bomb located by attackers.
Weakening Winstrike somewhat. Exactly what they're going to be looking for is... Oh, here we go. We're back. Kapkan getting another kill. I just
What
thinking,
is that?
Just me?
No, it was not just you, mate. It was me as well. I like this extended hold that we're seeing in Con, but it's not working out so well. As you can clearly see, Fedora is just owning this bomb site at the moment. So many strong angles, but Flares knows he needs to find a pick here. Playing passive ain't gonna cut it. Tries to get back on site. Really exposed. Namia narrowly misses that kill. Caught between a rock and a hard place. Fedora have angles absolutely everywhere. And they have the numbers advantage. Winstrike need to start making some plays to make this back again.
Maya did take some damage as he peeks in through the server window. He's now got Haze for some support, but Rush is going to be the one opening things up. Larry, he goes down as Kapkan makes a third for the round. Make that a fourth as well.
God.
Bringing Flares up fifth. Kapkan gets an ace to bring Fedora up to a 5-5 and say, we know that the first round didn't go our way, but watch what we can do.
Fish in a barrel for Kapkan, that's what that was. Every single avenue onto that bomb site was open. A player on every single window. And as our observers just pointed out in our operations chat, Kapkan got all 5 kills from the same position.
Disgusting.
Anyone who says that CCTV window, CCTV door, like the kennels walls, is not important can just, I guess, watch that round and see how powerful it can be. And yes, we want to credit Kapkan for landing those shots, but also the rest of Fedora for the way that they triangulated those players, right? Every single avenue was open. We had a Maverick player of Nemea on the TV wall. We had someone in construction, or someone rather watching through construction into cash from logistics office, and there's just nowhere safe for Winstrike.
Certainly doesn't feel like it, which is just an entirely different story to what we saw back in the first half. But that just makes it especially competitive and especially hard to really predict what's going to happen going forward. Obviously, we've got a number of weeks of Challenger League. Today is not the only day, and all of these teams want a spot in the EU League. And, you know, sometimes you might think, yeah, well, this is obviously going to be the team that wins. This is obviously going to be the ones that get through. But to open things up with a game like this, I'm starting to think it's not going to be that clean cut.
There's been a lot of speculation. Who's going to make it through? Who's going to be the top dog at the end of the league? And I've heard a lot of different opinions. I think there are some common favorites out there. Teams such as Penta, even the Lowland Lions. Yep, the la. But I don't think that there is a consensus. And I think that Winstrike and Fedora are definitely two of the teams that people haven't said that will be looking to take those top 2 spots, but I'm not so sure. These attacks are looking snappy.
Snappy, that's a nice way of putting it. I like that. They are. They're looking incredibly clean. And Kapkan, as he heads on down blue, holding on to M762 in the hands of Zafir. Very classic place for her to be found, but he obviously had a snappy attack last time. I'm wondering if he'll be able to repeat such things in this round.
Like that movement of the ADS. Once the stock hatch was starting to be opened up, Exo pulled it back. Once again, there's heavy contention around this kitchen hatch. Fratelli looking to open it up, but Flares ready for an impact trick, taken down. Lovely stuff there from Hayes. And already, Fedora have the advantage. The story of this game, Gio, has been attack. And Fedora looking to get themselves on match point should they close this round out.
Yeah, man, they were ready for that one. They knew what happened last time, and that means The kitchen hatch, of course, is going to be fully in their control as the flashes get sent on in. More information being gathered about the positioning of the defenders down below. The Maestro present in Moto, something that those attackers are very fully aware of right now. Dirt tunnel being opened up by Nemea here. He's going to take his time, but Larry, of course, present down by AKs, is going to be a big problem for him should he decide to move on. And there's a shield there as well. That's got to go.
Nemea's just doing a Bob Ross impression at the moment. A little bit here, a little bit there. Something to bring out the colours.
I heard Bob Ross was a big Siege fan.
Yeah, exactly. And then into dirt he goes. May take out that shield, but may not. Can he get the aggressive position and pressure Larry indeed? That's Nora, actually. What is that? Smash jumps in on the fun, but it's not looking so fun at the moment for Winstrike. Just 2 players left. Caught out. Fratelli once again getting that diffuser down, and a huge round from Hayes, the sledge player. Fedora, out of nowhere, managed to take us all the way to match point.
Interestingly, that was actually the, I think, the first round that Fedora attempted a plant. They didn't need it in the end because Hayes finished things up with the 2K, but they've been very, what's the word? Fight focused, aggression focused. They've been really about the fights at the end. Whereas when Winstrike were on their attack, we saw every single round they at the very least attempted a plant. So a real kind of difference in their playstyle there. But as you say, James, we're on match point now. And suddenly the story has changed somewhat. So heavily in favor was it to Winstrike earlier on in this game. And now Fedora are basically holding the win in their hands should they not let this round slip through their fingers.
It certainly looked like Fedora's held all the cards for these last 3 rounds, and as you mentioned, that attack at the end of the round, the pattern seems to be Fedora just establish control, hold angles. Winstrike starts to think, okay, we've got to make a play, and it gets punished. And Fedora have done that over and over again, so much so that they haven't really needed to plants. And I'm looking at Winstrike thinking, guys, you can't just keep banging your head against this wall. You've got to change something. What I was really hoping was to see an aggressive roam come through, something like, it doesn't have to be a copy-paste SSG roam. You don't have to bring the Vigil Castle, etc. But just try and give them a run for their money. Your aggression pays off when you do make it work. If you recall, the only round Winstrike's won on defense so far was when they found those 2 opening picks. And, well, Exo's on the roam, takes out one of those pre-placed drones TV. That'll help a lot. We also have some info gathering from Rush. I don't know where all of those cameras went. I know one was kitchen, but I'm hoping that some of it is on the roam to support. Okay, there you go. I'm guessing that by that there's one in storage. Can't quite see on my feed. It's a bit pixelated, but there you go, indeed. So 1 site, 1 storage. So they're actually quite passive cameras. So doesn't look like Winstrike's really trying to engage this roam a lot. But once again, what is this? Fedora have so much control. There's only 40 seconds down and Ash is already in Moto.
And it's like they don't even know that he's there. We've got presence on blue as well, and Exo takes a lot of damage. Nora's just getting ready to peek round into Church where Smash is situated, but he also knows that Exo is right behind in utility. Rush has come in for support. They know where the presence of this player is now, and Nora could find himself getting caught out, but we've seen what he's able to do. His teammates working on the hatches as they prepare to make this move in. All he has to do is wait, not die, and Fedora could have this in their hands. Watching in through the cameras, they know that the Sophia is just up here. Now, they just have to wait. Half the round remaining, and you already have attackers basically on site.
So Winstrike, you know that there's a player in storage, you know that there's someone near bot main stairs. So what? Like, there's nothing they can do because they don't have any roam presence. All they can do is sit and wait. And that doesn't work when Fedora are just so good at taking these opening fights. Capcan finds one, and the pattern continues, but Smash finally finds some aggression. Can he play off of that? Can he retake Moto? I don't think so, but the gunfights finally swing the way of the Russians. And Fedora need to step it up. That's the aggressive peaks I want to see from Winstrike. And the shots land. Just 2 players left. But they have Kitchen Hatch. They have Dirt Control. What can Nemea and Fratelli do with it?
A 4 versus 2 situation, and suddenly the story is very different to what we potentially expected. 45 seconds remaining, and as you say, Nemea and Fratelli have to figure out what they're doing, but Fratelli takes a lot of damage in through the floor of kitchen. He's still not yet dropped down towards the site where Nemea is waiting patiently in the tunnel. He cooks his nade, he's gonna throw it in. Is it gonna land onto Larry? No, he's not, but it's completely broadcast his location. He gets 1 kill. Can he get the second? Yes, he can! Now, a 2 versus 2. He makes it onto Larry, and there's the drop down from the Hibana. Fratelli, he's got to help his teammate if he can, but it might be too much of a pressurizing situation. There goes the attempted plant as Rush moves in, but it's going to be Smash getting that kill. The C4 doesn't quite land, and he does get the diffuser, but dying in the process means that Winstrike will have more than enough time to disable it. A very close round there at the end after shots coming in backwards and forwards to make it up to a draw, and we see that Challenger League is going to be no easy feat.
That game really crept up on me at the end, but Winstrike definitely earned their draw. A huge game from Fedora. They really kept up the pace, especially after coming out of their own defense at a deficit, but an attacker-sided Clubhouse leaves us, as you said, even Stevens a draw between the Russians and this mixed European team. A great way to kick off Challenger League here, Gia.
Honestly, that was... I know some people will probably think, oh, I wanted a win. I didn't want to see a draw. But that was a really exciting game. The way it went backwards and forwards, how much we saw from these players who, like us, I'm sure many of you didn't know loads about and maybe starting to get some investment in. But Analyst, you said at the start, you didn't fully know what to expect. You had some idea, but what do you think after that?
Here we are. I think.
Sorry, try not